Okay, welcome back everybody. So let's paint this drawing up. Even if I'm not going to do like a big thing in the background, we still want to add some color to it, all right? Now, normally we could just start with a neutral gray, but she's kind of gray, so it's not going to stand out very well. So I am going to start with a neutral-ish gray, but I'm going to warm it up a little bit, give it some color. And I'm just going to put it on the background layer here that I've got. All right, I'm using the paint bucket tool, and I'm just going to dump it in there. And just so it has something back there, it'll help the highlights pop a little more. Um, let's give it a little something. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my brushes. I'm going to get the soft round opacity brush. What I didn't realize was my opacity is too high, so I always paint with it a little lower, at least like 30 is a good spot for, 50 probably the highest. I can be a little more subtle with my tones, just like a little vignette kind of thing almost. Maybe maybe I want to add like a shadow. Now I'm looking at the light on her, and the kind of way I drew it, like the light coming from the top left over here, hitting her face, hitting the top of her chest here, hitting the top of her leg, this part of the arm. So which would mean that if I have a shadow, it's over there. So I'm going to go ahead and darken this up. Do like a little shadow there under her. Okay. Good enough for now. All right. Skin color. Okay, so now here's the thing. When I'm painting this way, I've got all these things broken up on different layers. I'm just gonna lock the background layer now so I don't accidentally paint on it. So I can lock it by hitting that button. You can see it's already got some locks on it already. That comes automatic with the background layer. I got the skin here. Now what I want to do is I want to lock the transparent pixels. So when I lock the transparent pixels, once again, kind of like the ink layer, it's going to prevent me from painting on other parts of the picture, right? And I can only paint on that part of the picture. So that's good for us. So I'll put them back on here. And we're going to paint this by locking the so I might as well just do it on all of them right now. Lock the transparent pixels, lock the transparent pixels, and on the details, I'll lock them. Okay, now I won't paint outside of my lines. Another thing I want to do is I want to go to my ink layer, and I want to give my line a little bit of color. So let's see here. So for the skin, let's just deal with the skin right now. So my skin tone, kind of a standard thing. It's just to darken up your line with the color you want. So, but let me pick my brush here. Am I on my brush? I'm on my brush. Okay, one thing I want to do now is kind of color my lines a little bit. Okay, it's going to add a better look to the whole thing. So I'm going to go to my ink layer, and I've already locked the transparent pixels. And remember, the ink layer, I took away all the white, so it's just the black line. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to select the skin color. I'm going to darken it up, saturate it a bit. Usually darker than you think is kind of what you need. Ink layer right there. And I'm going to change my brush, not there. It's usually on brush. I already changed it, but let's go. So it's on brush here, and I want to change it to the pencil. And you don't have to do this, but I do because I can easily, with the pencil, I can easily select all this color later if I want to change it and make it darker, and I don't have to repaint it. I can kind of dump fill it in by selecting it. Hopefully I won't need to do that, but sometimes the color isn't right, and I might want to make it darker or lighter. Usually darker than you think is better. And maybe I'll add some paint gradations to it later, but for now I want to reserve the ability to select it all. And I'll show you what I mean in a second here. I'm just going and painting all my skin lines, okay? And you have to determine what the skin lines are, like here, and like whether this line here is part of the suit or the skin. And pretty obvious in some places like this. It's obvious that it would be the suit, but sometimes it's not so obvious. So I'm just going back to black here and cleaning things up a little bit if I messed up. No big deal. All right, X will switch between my palettes here, so you can store 2 colors ready to go. Let's see. I think the top eyelid right here with eyelashes, I think I want to keep that black. This bottom eyelid, at some point I think I want to transition to my skin tone. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and paint the skin now. So I'm going to go to the skin layer, now that I've got that kind of outlined. I'm going to select the original skin color. I'm going to darken it up once again, similar to what I just did. But now I need a paintbrush. I'm going to switch this back to my brush. I'm going to go ahead and get a soft round pressure brush. And I need to pick my shadows. Once again, mistake of having my opacity too high. So somewhere around 30 something, 30-ish. And let's just pick out my shapes. So I'm thinking about where the light's hitting over here and where the darks would be. Under the eye sockets, or in the eye sockets, under the cheekbone, under the nose for sure. And on this side of the nose. And if I go too dark, like here, I'm going to go back and fix it soon. Okay, under her lip, chin, this side of the neck, okay, let's go down the hands. Again, the shortcut to the hand tool, if I don't say it, is spacebar. Super handy, no pun intended, tool. It lets you move around your image really quickly. So if I want to move over here, spacebar. Okay, kind of tricky there. The hands are really small. Okay, so let's see. Go ahead and a little bit of something there. And a little bit of something on the head. Okay, so make your chin a little more rounded. If I went too dark in areas, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select my original color. So I'm just going to look for a clean area. And not too much is clean, but that's okay. I got to start mixing things anyways. And now I'm going to go back and kind of add some highlights again. So like on the nose here, I got a little too dark on the tip. I can knock it back a little bit. If I want to soften, whoops, don't want to soften that much up. Soften some areas up. Can help your transitions a little. Okay, pretty good to go. Let's do a highlight now. So I'm going to pick the same color here, the original color. Actually, I already had it selected. I don't know why I did that. But I'm just going to have it. I'm going to lighten things up a bit. And we're still going to add color to the face. Face isn't one color. But I'm going to look for like the highlight areas, which would be the tip of the nose. And I'm going to do X, and I'm going to select my original color, just so I can add that back in if I need to. Get a nice transition there. Okay, and then X will take me back to my highlight color. At the top of these cheekbones here. And maybe the forehead here a little bit. And again, locking those pixels makes it really nice. I don't have to worry about hitting the hair or anything like that, right? Okay, top of the chin here a little. A little bit. On her chest here a little bit. Let's hit those fingers. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. Let's go ahead and add some color to her. Okay, so the face is not just one tone. There's other things going on. Okay, namely, some red is kind of the most obvious thing we can add in here. Add a little bit of red in here. But to do that, I'm going to change color modes, and I am going to try, let's see, let's try the overlay mode. I'm going to go ahead and get some red, and let me just test it out and see what it looks like here. I'm going to drop this down to like 10, and it's going to keep, so I got to be real subtle with it here because it gets pretty strong pretty quickly. But what it's going to do is it's going to keep my original shading, but it'll turn it all to red if you're not too careful. So the red, the most blood vessels are kind of on the cheeks, and that's why typically you can put like rouge there or whatever, right, to make your cheeks look a little more red, because they naturally do. And the tip of the nose, I'm going to switch back to my normal mode and see what happens here. Normal. I still got my opacity very low. Okay, add a little more in that way too, so it gets on some of this lighter areas. Okay, so that's where most of your red is. Okay, and you can add a little bit somewhere else if you want to. You can add a tiny bit there. But the head, the forehead, is more yellow. And that's actually because your skull is yellow and the skin is thinner there. So kind of weird, right? But okay, was that an overlay? Let's try overlay. So I'm just going to add a little bit of yellows up there. And then the bottom of your chin tends to be a little blue because there's less blood vessels, the red blood vessels there. So I'm going to just add a little touch of blue there in my overlay mode, just to add a little color variation, maybe under the eye sockets as well. Might look a little bit like makeup, but it's okay to have multiple colors going. Okay, there we go. Chest here, I'm going to go back to my red color. And there's all sorts of things going on. Like you could see yellow sometimes, just to keep it in the neck here. I'll add a little bit of red, just to keep her looking alive. I'll add a little more red in there. Okay, you probably noticed on your hands there can be a lot of red as well, especially on the inside of your hands. Not that we'll see too much there, but I still want to add some color. Break it up a little bit. And remember when we zoom out, it's going to look a little bit different. Okay, I think we're good to go. Now I know I got to go back into the ink layer and I got to darken up those nostrils. So I'm going to select the brown I used there. Go to a near black. Go ahead and kind of darken up that inside there. Okay, there we go. And for now, I'm going to move forward, but that is decent for the skin for me. Let me change it back. I'm going to do a little bit of touch up here. Go back to normal. As I said, that's decent for the skin. Then I go ahead and change things. I just want to add a little bit of, oh, I'm on the ink layer. Of course I am. Wrong layer. Back to the skin. Opacity is still down. Got to move that up. There we go. So just got to keep track of things, and sometimes it gets a little hairy when you're switching back and forth. So let's see. Can add a little bit of lower eyelid there, maybe. Maybe not. All right. Let's go back and add this color back in here. I lost that on my ink layer. Okay, there we go. We'll call that done for the skin and move forward. So now let's get to the hair. But let's go ahead and look at her hair real quickly. And let's kind of do a little study on what colors we see. So we've got this dark red here, kind of orangey red. And if I look over here, I kind of see where it is. It's definitely in the red, slightly to the orange. As it gets brighter, it gets a little more towards the orange, if you can see that. So let's see, darker, a little more towards the red. As you get to the highlights, a little more towards the orange. Not much difference. Let's see how we get over here on this side. even more towards the yellow. So check that out on these little, on the very, very highlights over here. So we can see that our darks will be, let me see, I'm going to select the original color again, B for brush. Darks will be somewhere in the dark red zone here. And I'm going to go ahead and get my pencil. And let's go ahead and color the hair. Give it a tone. Maybe a little darker. It's pretty dark. I have a feeling some of the darker areas might need to be darker, and then my lighter areas, I might need to lighten the color here. But we'll see. Once again, this only works when I have the transparent pixels locked. I'm going to see what her eyebrows look like. Give it a little tone as well. Alright, just about done here. And let's see. Right in there. A little bit on the edge here. I gotta watch that edge. Okay, and if I miss something, we can always go back and get it. That'll give us an idea how it's going to look. So let's switch to my hair color. And let me do this again here. Go a little towards the red. Now a bit darker. And I'm just going to shade it kind of like it wasn't hair. So again, not using the pencil. All right. Soft round pressure opacity. Okay, so I'm going to shade it like it wasn't hair using the soft round pressure opacity brush. My opacity is kind of high. I got to lower it down to like 30 something. And I'm just looking for individual strands, or not strands, individuals. I'm not looking for individual strands. I'm looking for clumps of hair and to where the shadows might be. So this back side kind of facing away from our highlight. Possibly be a lot more in shadow. Okay, I'm not being too precise here, just getting some general tones. Let's try this right here. This side. Okay, got some highlights up there and on this side, some shadows over here. Let's now try switching to a different brush. Let's look here. Hard round pressure opacity. Let's get some deeper shadows possibly. Now I can kind of paint some maybe streaks in here coming in and out. Oh, you know what I want to use? I know what brush I want to use. I want to use a hard round pressure opacity. This one gives me a nice little feel. That's the one I want to use. And I can lift off kind of my streaks here. I can make them smaller. You can make larger ones, and you can kind of cut in and make some smaller ones. And it'll let me lift off a little better, I believe, than that other brush I started with. Okay, looking for shadow sides. Okay, so I got some streaks in there, kind of looks a little more hair-like. Let's go a little, I don't know, let's keep the darks. So I'll keep it dark down here. Give me a few. And now let's go to the original color. So I'm just going to kind of go back and forth here. I'm going to add some streaks coming the other way. Some highlight, some starts of some highlight areas. But I like the way this brush kind of gives me this texture, which I can use to communicate like a little bit of a hair kind of feel, like a strandy feel, you know? Got a little weird there. So I'm just kind of working in some of those highlights back there. I got too dark in areas. Okay. Let's now go a little brighter. So I'm going to go a little more towards the orange. A little brighter here. Do some more like highlight. Okay, so I'm just trying to pick out some areas that I think would, got a weird line there, would be getting the most light. And if I don't like a line, I just kind of do Command Z and undo it real quickly. And sometimes it's helpful to look at a photo. Like if you have the photo handy, you could look at this, but I want to just kind of free, for the most part, I'm just kind of I don't know the word I want to use. Estimating it? No, that's not the right word. I'll lower the opacity here. Freehanding it? I don't know, that's what I wanted to say. Sounds weird though. Okay, so I lower the opacity. So as I get to this darker area, they won't come out as strong. But yet I can still kind of get some lighter streaks in there. Over here I might want to up it again. And you can always hit numbers in the keyboard as well. That's another shortcut. I always forget to do it or just don't. I don't know. I haven't trained my hand to think that way. But if I want to drop it down to 20%, I can just hit the 2 and it'll drop to 20. If you want an exact number, you could type in 2 numbers. That would work as well. But if you hit one number, it'll just go to, you know, if you hit 2, it's going to go to 20. If you hit 3, it's going to go to 30, and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. Is that good enough to move on? I think it might be. I might be able to go a little darker. I feel like I went a little subtle on the shadows. Maybe a little darker. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my original color up here in the swatches. Go for a little darker. And let's see what happens if I'm still at 20. Go to 40 something and see. And I'm just trying to get some deeper kind of shadow areas, mostly on the back side here. And I'm hoping some of the streaks I already made, if I don't hit it too hard, they should carry through. Not disappear or anything. All right. All right, yeah, let's move on. Okay, so let's go. I'm gonna go back to the face. We got the outfit and all that, but I think I want to finish up, or not finish up, but get like the lips situated and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick my lip color. Go to my ink layer, darken it up quite a bit, and I'm gonna pick my pencil again. Not there, but here. Not there, but here. There we go. And I feel like I darkened it up a lot, but that didn't feel like it did enough. So let me go a little darker. Okay, cool. Go into my details now because that's where that color is. Selecting the original color. Go dark now. I got to switch for my pencil before I forget. To my soft round pressure opacity. And my shade color. I'm going to darken the original color up on the brightness here on the black levels of brightness. I never know what this stands for. I never bothered to look it up. I know this is hue, I know this is saturation, and this is either black or like black levels or brightness. Probably brightness, but I don't know. But I feel like it goes to the black right there. It's probably brightness. And okay, so I'm treating these like round cylinders, kind of getting the shadow underneath. And then a little bit on the inside here. Okay, and now pick the original color again. And I'm going to make the highlights. I'm going to bring the saturation up or down. Well, it's down. Sorry, up would be that way. I'm going to bring the saturation down so it looks a little more pink, and the brightness up. And let's see. Let me just hit it with a general. Okay, and if I want, I can go to the hard round opacity brush here, and I can kind of add some little details, make it look a little more textured, like lips are. And maybe if I want to add a little highlight, if I want to make the lips look even glossier, you can just keep adding highlights. All right, let me zoom out. That's a good idea to zoom out and see how things are going. And I'm going to go to my ink because I just spotted some things I forgot to color. Okay, so continuing along with the face, I'm going to head up to the eyeballs here, and I'm looking at my ink layer. I'm going to take off the transparent pixels, and I'm just going to touch up some things that I missed, like right there. And when you do that threshold and when you do the levels, it sometimes, accentuates things that weren't there, or were there slightly, more so, and then brings them out more. So touch up is, you might have to touch up things you might have thought you already touched up or didn't think you had to touch up. What is that there? I don't know what that is. Okay, that's good for now. Re-hit the lock transparent pixels. Back to details. Let's check out these eyes. So I'm going to switch back to my brush, select the color I have for the eyes, go a little darker with it because eyeballs are round. I'm going to hit my soft round pressure opacity, and we're going to have a little shadow kind of in the corners here, and usually under the eyelid as well. So I can hit that pretty solidly there. And then maybe I'll go a little darker here. Just hit a little more in the corner and accentuate this shadow under the eyelid. Okay, and then maybe a little bit of white there too. Let's see. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick white. All right, not too bad. So the color part of the eye. Let's go ahead and I'm going to use a lasso tool for this. So lasso tool is right there. And I'm just going to create a line here. Actually, let me go. Just kind of loosely surround the area, but I'm separating this white space from that because I know it's on the same layer. So I turn off all my other layers. I'll leave that on. You can see it's on the same layer, and I don't want to accidentally get paint on it. Like I did here, I got a little paint on it. It's okay, but now I want to separate it as I'm going to try and do the colored part of the eye. So I'm going to paint it back to this kind of green hazel color. And there's a lot of black that I drew in there, so it's going to make it kind of tricky. So I'm going to darken up my green. I'll put the shadow there too. A little bit on the outside. Maybe go back to the original color. I go lighter. And something I found that looks kind of cool is the hard round pressure opacity brush again, and kind of, oops, not too bright. Drop that opacity down. You can kind of get these little, I think they're muscles, right, in the eyeball and the iris. It makes these little lines like that. Are they muscles? I don't know what they are, but they open and close your iris. And then here, that's supposed to be a highlight. So I want that to be really bright. So I'm going to go to white here. Kind of lighten that up. And actually, I think this is supposed to be a highlight as well. Let me add a little bit there. And we're going to do something to kind of make that more interesting in a little bit. All right, that'll do it for the face and hair. So let's finish up the body on the next video. See you there.